Looks like the Giants are going to get Andrew Thomas back at the right moment. Can Shane Bowen's defense hold up against a struggling Chiefs offense? And will the Giants get their first win, or is it going to be more of the same on primetime TV? We got a lot of storylines to discuss. This is Blue Rush. NFL Week 3 needs no introduction. The Giants finally play a game in Jersey after dropping their first two on the road. I'm Brandon London with the coolest beat writer on the beat, Paul Schwartz. Paul, uncharted territory for the 0-2 Chiefs, having to come to MetLife Stadium to try and get their first win against a Giants team who, in my opinion, they owe it to themselves to put together a complete game, especially coming off that huge letdown loss against the Cowboys. We got some must-win Sunday night primetime football on the menu. How you feeling today, sir?
Hey, Brandon. First of all, coolest beat writer. I'm not sure what your definition of cool is. You may have to look that up, but I'll take the compliment if indeed that was one.
You have the best shoe game throughout the entire beat.
Okay, I'll accept that. Yes, I do work on it. Yes, I do work on it. You know what? This is Sunday night, and when we looked at the start of the season, we said, okay, week 3, Sunday night against the Chiefs. Okay, that's going to be a real tough order. Maybe the Giants can be 1-1 before then and have a little cushion. They should have had a cushion. They should have been 1-1. They're not 1-1. And so, yes, now you said, look, it's not Armageddon, must win. We'll get into 0-3 versus, 1-2 later. But yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at it with the Chiefs, right? They're
Yeah.
0-2 and they're vulnerable, or they're 0-2 and they're pissed off. We'll see which one it is Sunday night.
All right, we're gonna break that down as well because I got vulnerable, desperate, and we're gonna add pissed off to that one. And matter of fact, we should have some sort of call to action for the fans on what type of 0-2 team are the Chiefs gonna have on the field at MetLife Stadium. But the big news for this Giants offensive line, for the offense, heck, for the team in general. Andrew Thomas practiced on Wednesday. Looks like he's going to practice again today. Brian Daboll, when we were there during his availability, said he was encouraged that Andrew may play on Sunday. How big of an impact do you think Andrew Thomas is going to have in his first real live game action of the 2025 season if he plays?
No, it's going to be interesting. It was interesting on Wednesday when Marcus Bowe, the rookie, stepped in and played very well after James Hudson kind of had a meltdown. And Daboll was asked, "Well, is Marcus Bowe going to get some reps there at left tackle?" And Daboll said, "No, I think Andrew's going to really take those reps,
Okay.
which is good. It's good. He needs to take those reps. Can he go from 0 to 60? 0 snaps, 0 snaps to 60, 65. I mean, there was a lot of snaps in the game last week in Dallas because of the overtime. You don't start a left tackle and say you're going to play a series and then we're putting somebody else in. That's just not the way it works. Maybe the Giants will have to do that at some point Sunday night if Andrew Thomas is ready, willing, and able, but not necessarily able to play a full load. But we've chronicled when Andrew Thomas plays, the offensive line is exponentially better. Will he be rusty? Maybe. Is that an excuse? It can't be. Is that acceptable? It can't be. When you look, he's coming back from a tough injury, Lisfranc foot surgery, screw inserted, screw then taking out. That I think caused some of this delay. Maybe he could have been ready earlier than this, but when you have another procedure, it sets everything back. The Giants and Andrew Thomas have to be 100% comfortable that he can go on. He's a 325-pound guy to plant that foot into the hard turf and that he can withstand that. If he does, this is the plan for the offensive line. Andrew Thomas and John Runyon, they feel is a good left side. Illuminor is a good right tackle. Greg Van Roten is a veteran, hold the fort guy at right guard. And you have John Michael Schmitz, who the Giants like a lot better than the fan base does, and probably a lot better than a lot of the media does. But if Andrew Thomas is there and he can play up to his capabilities, it makes everybody down the line better. and they need him. They need him in the worst way.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the rust that comes out, like if they can protect the rust, and it's like what I mean by protecting the rust is maybe not have them in a third and long situation going one on one. Maybe in the first couple until you see, all right, he's caught up to speed. We're not going to be able to get a chance to see if he does any one-on-ones with Kayvon and Brian Burns and those guys. They're not going to put any pads on for the rest of the week. They had shells on, which is like the hockey pads and the helmets for those of you who don't know what shells on Wednesday. So now, how much of the grunt work, the grind, is that foot going to be able to hold up with? Because this could be another game that goes into overtime. We talk about the 0-2 Chiefs being vulnerable, desperate. They need the win. They're going to do everything in their power, and they still have Patrick Mahomes who should be able to put up some points. Hopefully the Giants defense kind of stalls that. But if you're able to protect him in that foot in terms of maybe having Tyrone Tracy or Cam Skattebo kind of chip blocking at first, and then as the game kind of goes on, you kind of monitor, all right, how's he looking? Does he look like he can handle a Karlaftis coming off the edge all by himself? And then as the game gets later on into it, when we hit like the fourth quarter, is he still holding up when it comes to his conditioning and then being able to, like you say, put that foot in the ground and push? Because this Giants, the passing game looks like it could be there. I know they threw all over the Cowboys. Their secondary is horrible. They were able to protect. We saw that. Only gave up 1 sack on the day, 7 pressures on Russell Wilson. But it's the run game, Paul, that has to get going this week. 79 yards per game. That's 28th in the NFL. And now you're going up against a Chiefs defense that's giving up a $106 per game, tied for 15th in the NFL. Small sample size in 2 games, but they're going to have to run the football against this Chiefs defense to continue to be able to throw the football down the field and to be better on third down, which they're at the 33.3%, haven't been able to stay on the field. So now you're going up against a 0-2 Chiefs who their defense hasn't been as good. Patrick Mahomes leads the team in almost every statistical category outside of rushing attempts and catches and receiving yards. Is this a vulnerable Chiefs team, a desperate Chiefs team, or, like you said, a pissed off Chiefs team?
Well, look, they lost their first 2 games, right? For the first time in over a decade, since 2014. Patrick Mahomes was a freshman, I believe, at Texas Tech. Okay, the last time that the Chiefs went 0-2, I think that was Andy Reid's second year in Kansas City. Who did they lose to? They lost to the Chargers 27-21. The Chargers might be one of the best 5 teams in football.
Absolutely.
I mean, right? They might be, right? They might be.
Yep.
I mean, the Eagles, they lost 20-17. The Eagles are the first or second best team in football. I think everyone will agree with that. You love the Packers, great. You love, the Bills, great. But the Eagles are right up there. They're the Super Bowl champions. So they did not lose games to bad teams. Yeah, I mean, Mahomes is, we can go down and I'd like to go down this with you a little bit, Brandon. I would say if you take the quarterback away, which you can't, but we will for this exercise, okay? Because it's not only the quarterback. If you look at the Chiefs offense, right, personnel, they're 10 starters versus the 10 starters the Giants played against the Commanders and the 10 starters the Giants played against the Cowboys, especially their skill players, their ball handling guys, the receivers, the tight ends, and the running backs. I would say this is the weakest collection the Giants will have played yet.
Yep.
I think the Commanders' running game and receivers were better. I think the Cowboys' receivers and running game was definitely better. Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thompson, there's some speed there certainly, but I think this group of receivers is less potent than the guys the Giants have played. So I think there's an opening there for the Giants to play some good defense. Kareem Hunt has 42 rushing yards this season. Isaiah Pacheco has 47 rushing yards this season. So Patrick Mahomes has 123 rushing yards this season. He's on pace for over 1,000, which I don't think he will keep that pace. I think Mahomes is accounted for 89% of the team's total yards. Okay. He is a one-man band, and that one-man band right now is not getting it done. They're 0-2. So are they better than that? I think so, but I don't think this is the Chiefs team where you look at on defense for the Giants and you say, we can't stop them. We can't
Yeah.
stop them. They're showing Travis Kelce now, right? He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He had a very costly drop last week against the Eagles near the goal line that was intercepted. He is a great player and he is an icon, and he has a very famous fiance, as we know, which my daughter is very excited about that, blessed event that is coming. I think a lot of America is. He's not the same player he was. So this is a vulnerable offense if they can just not have Patrick Mahomes put on a Superman cape.
So basically, the translation of what you're saying is this game is on Shane Bowen then.
Well, would you agree with that? Would you agree that this
Skill
playmaker
group. Yeah.
skill group is, I mean, they're not terrible, but they're not as good as the Cowboys were. They're just not. Would you agree?
Without it, absolutely no. Now, CeeDee
The
Lamb, George
Commanders
Pickens.
also.
Absolutely. This is the weakest skill position group or playmaker group that the Giants defense is going to be going up against. I'm
And we should say,
100% there with you.
right, Rashee Rice is still suspended.
Still suspended.
And we don't know if Xavier Worthy's going to play. He's got a torn labrum. I've been reading, it's early in the week or it's later in the week now, but we'll see. Can he play with a torn labrum? He didn't play last week. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe he can. Maybe he can't. If he's playing with a torn labrum, Drew Phillips, one of those guys, got to put a hit on him and see if that torn labrum can hold up or tackle him to the ground. But so this plan was for Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and then you have tremendous speed and you have a lot more dangerous weapons. If they're not there, it's a group you can defend if you don't give up big plays and you stop the run. And you mentioned about Shane Bowen. There are people in that building who notice the Giants are ranked last in the league in defense right now. Last. That cannot happen with this personnel. It cannot happen with this personnel. So it is on Shane Bowen. The Chiefs can't run the ball. Make them continue to not be able to run the ball. There's no excuse to have the Chiefs run for $150, $160, and have an even game here where Patrick Mahomes can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, you mentioned them having the worst or giving up the most total yards per game. The one that stood out to me the most is that they give up, in terms of the Giants defense, they allow the most rushing yards per game as well. And that's what John Mara was saying back in, December or January. He got tired of seeing teams go up and down the field on this defense. And, you got the fourth-ranked in 2024, the fourth-ranked offense in the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, they went up and down the field, and obviously Dak Prescott and those guys. So, I think this has to be that Shane Bowen get right or get the haters up off of me type game going up against, because at the end of the day, we can talk about how Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the playmakers that he has, but it's still Patrick Mahomes. He's up there in that Brady category to where he can have Brady had, like Rashay Codwell and Jabbar Gaffney as Deion Branch as his receivers, and they were still going to Super Bowls with those guys. I look at Patrick Mahomes as being one of those type of quarterbacks who can make the guys around him better. But if you're Shane Bowen with all the heat that you're taking right now and people upset with you for being in prevent or some sort of prevent defense on that throw to Jake Ferguson that got the Cowboys in field goal position, this could be the game where since you have the quarterback that you have and you have the play caller that you have in Andy Reid, darn the chess pieces. We're talking about the guy who's moving the chess pieces. If you can go after Andy Reid and get after Patrick Mahomes, all could be well in Giants land on primetime TV in the home opener. So this game means so much for a lot of people. And on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City, Chris Jones, their all-world defensive tackle, only has 4 pressures on the season. Right now, he's dealing with a lot of double teams. He's kind of been quiet right now. I didn't want to put it out. I can't mime it. So, for our podcast listeners, but Dexter Lawrence, I read a stat that he has 2 pressures on 66 pass rushes. He's the fifth highest double team rate in the league right now. We knew that going into this year that he was going to be double teamed. But I guess I didn't expect him to only have 2 pressures in 66 pass snaps. Having a baby changes a man, Paul. You guys spoke to him in the locker room the other day. Does he seem upbeat? Does it seem, because I was talking to Wan'Dale and those guys, and we'll throw to that in a little bit. But does Dexter Lawrence, does it look like it'll be a lot of people doing the sexy Dexy on Sunday? There's the question.
Well, maybe on the field, probably not in the press box. I wouldn't think. I think I would break a hip if I tried that. Look, the first game for Dexter Lawrence was kind of a feeling out, getting the rust, shaking the rust off game. He didn't do much of anything all summer, right? He's coming off a major injury, a dislocated elbow, so he needed to. He didn't play in any preseason games. You got to get into it. It's not just a natural thing to go in there and lower your 350-pound body and take on double teams and feel that physicality. So I think the first game is just him kind of getting his feet wet. They need more from him. There's no question. And I think the way this has been built in the summer, we were told, look, they're not going to be able to double Dexter Lawrence as much because you're going to have Brian Burns, you're going to have Kayvon Thibodeau, and now you're going to have Abdul Carter. You're not going to be able to double him as much. Well, guess what? They're doubling him as much.
They are.
So something and someone needs to make teams pay for that. That's all there is to it. You can't leave guys in all the time. At some point, you have to have send guys out in routes and things like that. So you can't chip Burns, and you can't have a guy watching Carter. And maybe you leave Kayvon singled, and you have Dexter doubled. At some point, something's got to break here. Most of it comes back to not being able to stop the run, and so they don't put them in obvious passing situations often enough. Kayvon Thibodeau has had a good start to his season. Brian Burns said it's by far the best he's seen Kayvon play. He was here last year, obviously, and said Kayvon is stronger. He's more powerful. He's more relentless. He's just playing harder on every snap. So Burns has, great credit to Kayvon Thibodeau. Burns is playing well. I think Abdul Carter is, I wouldn't say a work in progress, but, he doesn't have 5 sacks. He doesn't have, 6 tackles for loss yet. He's kind of feeling his way. He's a rookie. That's what happens with rookies, right? It happens with most rookies that aren't named Lawrence Taylor, okay? That there's kind of a feeling out process, and he's going through that now. He will have a breakout. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it is. But, the Giants, the defense, I think, should be able to stand up. I'm worried about the Giants' offense. We can get into that now as far as, or after this break, we'll see. I think there are some issues there we may have to talk about.
All right, well, we're gonna talk about that right after we hear my one-on-one with Cam Skattebo in this week's London in the Locker Room. Cam Skattebo, you got your first one on this past Sunday. How did it feel to get in the end zone for the first time?
Felt great. I've done it a lot, so being able to do it at the highest level is something I've always wanted to do, so it's been awesome.
When you say you're learning a lot, do you feel like the game, in terms of the professional NFL game, is kind of slowed down for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think about midway through the third quarter is when it kind of hit me like, all right, it's just football, and it kind of slowed down for me. So now the time's going to go on, and I'm going to continue to play. It's just going to get slower and slower and hopefully become easier.
Talk us through that big run, man, that 24-yard run that kind of set up that 2-yard touchdown for you. Just kind of blocking scheme, what you saw, and then you bounced off a couple of tackles there. So just kind of break it down from the mind of Cam.
Yeah, we ran the same play earlier in the game with Russ, and, he got about 1 yard and didn't hand it off. So with Jackson coming in, you think Jackson's coming in to run the ball, and then he hands it off, and there's nobody in the hole. The line did a great job. I literally took the ball, and there was nobody in front of me, and I knew I had to make 2 people miss. There's a guy come from my right and my left. I attacked one of them, and the other one was there, and I tried to make a miss, but I got as close as I could without scoring, I guess. So I wish I could have got in on that one, but.
Talk to me about like that offensive explosion that you guys had there down in Dallas. They say in the NFL or just in pro sports in general, you get better from week 1 to week 2. That's when you make the most improvement. We got to see that from the offensive line. We got to see that from the vertical passing game. I guess just going into this Chiefs game, like how much did you guys put on tape to where you feel like you could build off of to maybe get a win on primetime football?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to keep doing us. We got to get better every week. We got better from week 1 to week 2, and it still wasn't good enough. So, we just got to get better this week and, go out there and put our best foot forward and hope for the best.
I'll talk about the protection getting better and then the vertical passing game getting better. Do you feel like the run game, you guys put one explosive play on tape. Do you feel like the run game is next up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm back there now, and, we got Tracy and Motor over there. We're going to be an explosive offense through the whole thing. I think we just needed to find our footing, and, the O-line's now focusing on the run a little bit more, and we're really we're starting to understand who we are. So we'll get there surely, but it might take some time, but we're getting there.
You got the home opener on Sunday night. You kind of felt it a little bit in that last preseason game. How excited are you to get that first official game at MetLife Stadium in front of the fans?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I know hopefully we, book it out and everyone's there to support. But, it's nothing like it when you get to play at home for the first time, with your new football team and your new coaches and your new staff and all these new guys and understanding what this is all about. So playing in New York, the biggest football market in the world, so I'm going to go out there and play my hardest and hope for the best.
Lastly, when I spoke to you on the blue carpet at Michael Rubin's party at the Super Bowl, I kind of asked you who you wanted to draft you. You were like, you just wanted to play anywhere. Like, how great has it been, being a New York football giant so far?
It's been awesome. I mean, everybody in this building has been great to me. I enjoy all the company of everybody, and continuing to, build with these people and grow with these people is only going to make us stronger. So, I try to look at the good in everybody and make sure that, I'm not making any bad friends here or, any bad reps around myself. But everything's been awesome. Teammates, players, coaches, everyone's been great. So.
All right, man. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Paul, you know who he reminds me of? And he used to wear 44 as well? Ahmad Bradshaw. I get a lot of Ahmad Bradshaw and Cam Skattebo. Hear me out here, just in terms of the way they both run angry. They're angry runners. Both catch the football out of the backfield. And remember, Ahmad Bradshaw didn't play much at the beginning of the season, our rookie year, 2007. He kind of came onto the scene late and instantly became a fan favorite. So I'm seeing the same on the field traits and I guess intangibles in Cam Skattebo and his introduction to Big Blue or to the fans as well. And it's a kid, he's getting it. Like he said in the interview just now, he's like, it was the third quarter of that Cowboys game to where the game just slowed down for him. And he said, he was like, it's just football here. We're just playing football again. I like the kid so far. I like the 1-2 punch of he and Tyrone Tracy Jr., but these guys are going to have to get that run game going.
Well, hold on. There's no 1-2 punch right now. First of all, Ahmad was how big? How heavy was
About
Ahmad?
5'9", 205, 210 ish.
Yeah, okay. Skattebo's 220. He's more of a a
bruiser.
Bruiser. He's a bruiser. It's interesting because when I watched the game, which I obviously did in Dallas, Skattebo had, they bring Jackson Dart in, right? And it definitely had effect on the way the Dallas Cowboys defense played it. You have the first snap of Jackson Dart's career, and that the Cowboys are thinking, this is going to be a quarterback run, or there's an RPO. You get in that RPO set, and Dart puts it in Skattebo's, in his midsection, and does he pull it? No, he keeps it 24 yards, right? There's no question. And that's good football. That's good coaching. Yep. That's good football. You put him in. I mean, Dart was a decoy there. He wasn't going to run the ball unless they just didn't honor, the fake there. But good football. But other than that, and then Skattebo followed. He almost got a touchdown. It would have been a 25-yard touchdown run. No big deal. He gets it on the next play, walks in pretty much untouched. Great. But he had 11 carries and 45 yards, and one of them was 24 yards. So, and one of them was a touchdown, and the only thing he could do was gain 1 yard there. Yep. But those other 9 runs, there wasn't a whole lot there. So I'm not ready to anoint Cam Skattebo as, he's got it. He's got. Now look, okay, it's fine. I'm a believer in him, but I don't see it yet. Um, as far as Tyrone Tracy, I mean, this is a real mystery, isn't it? That he has gone from a guy who had 830 something yards last year and over 1,000 all-purpose yards, and is talking in the summer about I think I can get 1,500 rushing yards, and he's barely on the field. 5 carries, 15 yards. I understand that he's used for 5 kickoffs, and there's a workload there, but I'm not buying it. There's something with Tyrone Tracy that's up. I don't know. He did say some things about questioning the play calling. Brian Dable said that has nothing to do with it. He's on kickoffs, and they're all going to get their shot. But to me, I mean, what do you think? Tyrone Tracy to me is built like a workhorse, and he showed that he can have 15, 20, 22, 23 carries. Now, I'm not saying he needs all that because you want to get Cam Skattebo involved, but I'm not sure why Motor Singletary is getting snaps that Tyrone Tracy maybe should get. Um, the running game is a little bit of a mess, and it needs to get straightened out because Russell Wilson's not thrown for 450 yards again anytime this season. I'll go on record as saying that. And what are the Chiefs going to do? What is Steve Spagnuolo going to do? He's going to look at that and say, we're going to make the Giants beat us by throwing the ball underneath, right?
Yep.
Or then we're not letting these guys get behind us. That's going to be taken away for the most part. Will they hit one? Maybe, but it's not going to be this bombs away that we saw last week in Dallas. This is a much superior defense. It's a superior defensive backfield. So, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be Moonball City Sunday night, and they're going to have to run the ball. And does Andrew Thomas help? Maybe, but there's an odd dynamic going on with Tracy, which I don't really understand. We'll see if it gets rectified Sunday night.
To me, the first running back to hit 80 yards plus in a game gets that starting nod, I feel like, because right now they're about even. I do believe there could be something there when it comes to the Tyrone Tracy Jr. not getting as many carries against the Cowboys because Gunnar Olszewski was kind of knocked out of that game with injuries. But at the end of the day, like, you can return a kick, be out for 2 to 3 plays, and then get substituted right back in and get some carries. I wonder, Paul, if it's because he's putting the football on the ground a little bit too much, and not in terms of fumbling the football, just a drop here or two, but he has to get going because he was somebody that, again, when he said he was going to run for 1,500, I said, all right, I can see that because of what he was able to do last season. But then someone told me, like, was he able to have the success he had last year because the Giants' offense and pass game was so terrible? They had to rely so much on the run and focus on that. So that's a question. That's something to keep an eye out on, especially on this football game where I agree with you. They're going to have to run the football. Spags will go too high. Well, he blitzes the second most in the NFL right now, but he could also go too high to try and take away the deep ball, moon ball, explosive plays in the passing game and say, hey, beat us. Beat us with us rushing 4 with a 4 down lineman. So that's going to be something to keep an eye out on. We talk about moonball. We talk about guys who've benefited from the moonball, obviously Malik Neighbors. But our guy Wan'Dale Robinson, man, who averaged, around 7 yards per catch last year, is up to 14.1, has had back-to-back 100-yard games. I went into the locker room. I spoke with him as well. And he thinks that the offense is going to have a complete game Sunday night against the Chiefs. London in the locker room with the man of the hour. I mean, trying to pull you away from all the New York media. Can I get your autograph, Wan'Dale Robinson, right here? I mean, obviously, you guys have kind of flushed the game, the loss. But when you watch the film and you see how you guys are able to push the football down the field effortlessly at times, I mean, where else is there for this offense to go, man?
I mean, there's still a lot of places that we can go. Red zone, we still got to be better in. Third downs, we can still be better in, even though we probably converted the majority of them in this past game. And then we still got to be able to run the ball whenever we want to. So there's still a lot of things to clean up, but look forward to Sunday and seeing how those things look.
Wan'Dale, you've been 0-2 with this team before. Does this 0-2 feel different than 0-2s in the past? Stupid question, but I had to ask.
No, it definitely does. I mean, we know exactly what we did in that past game, and we hurt ourselves and felt like we should have won that game. In the past, it more so feels like, we just lost the game, and there wasn't anything out there that felt like we could have done it differently or anything like that. So definitely now it's like, offense, we take care of our business, and we know our defense is going to get back on track and do what they got to do, and we're confident.
Watching you on the field, some of your mannerisms, some of your celebrations, for the first time since you were drafted here, it looks like you are having a hell of a time playing football within this Brian Daboll offense. I guess what's different, man? What's different?
I'm getting to do a lot of bit of everything. I'm getting to run the short intermediate stuff, getting down the field even with Russ and stuff like that too. So just being used all over the place, and that's just what I love to do, and being all over different spots and doing a lot of different things for our offense.
Russ talks about, or he accredits the time that a lot of you guys put extra away from the facility, like the time down in San Diego. I guess, do you feel like that extra work in the off season is kind of paying off right now?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's so many times during that, like, you accomplish so much just with little conversations, figuring out routes and concepts and things like that, that you probably wouldn't get to a lot of times in training camp just because everything's moving so fast. And so during that time, you can really slow stuff down and talk about everything and really be on the same page with everybody. And it really started in the spring whenever you came to Atlanta the first time, and just continue to grow from there.
The fan base, when they watch, they're excited because they see from week 1 to week 2, the pass protection get better. From week 1 to week 2, the vertical passing game get better. But a lot of them are still frustrated when it comes to the penalties and this team beating themselves. You're a vet now in this locker room that has a voice. What do you say to the team to kind of clean that stuff up so it's not Giants versus Giants on Sunday?
We like the stuff that we can control. We gotta eliminate that stuff, and we can't have the unnecessary roughness and but penalties like that. I mean, the holding calls and stuff like that. Whenever you're straining and stuff like our coaches and everybody, we can deal with that because you're at the end of the day, you're trying and you're really straining your ass off to go do your job. But the ones that are undisciplined and you know that you can control that, we gotta eliminate them.
Last but not least, you got the 0-2 Chiefs coming into MetLife Stadium. Prime time football. Two things. The Chiefs aren't used to being 0-2. The Giants in history hasn't been able to play that well on prime time football. I mean, I guess what's your thoughts, team thoughts going into what people are some calling a must-win on Sunday night?
I mean, at the end of the day, we feel like it's a must-win for us too. I mean, we want to go out there and win each and every game that we play. So we just got to come ready to play, and we know they're gonna come out swinging and be ready. Obviously, that's like you said, that's the team that's been to the Super Bowl the past couple of years, so they're used to winning. So we just definitely got to come and bring it and be ready to come out with a win on Sunday.
Lastly, have a little fun with this, man. I myself was looking like, what's different with Wan'Dale this season? I go to your IG, your story, you're posting some fire cleats. You had, I believe, the blue ones on the first game, the red ones week 2. Can you tease us on what that cleat swag is going to be like Sunday night?
We can pull out we can give a little sneak. We got the little Air Force right here, and we got the Kobe 5. We'll probably pull out one of these. From
These aren't the same thing?
No, they're not. These are two different cleats.
All right, so we're gonna let the fan base. We're gonna let our New York Post Sports. This is A. This is A. No, this is W, and this is R. Are we going with the W's or are we going with the R's on Sunday night?
Yeah. Hey, y'all let me know, and I'll rock with what y'all got.
All right, Wan'Dale. Good luck on Sunday, my man. Appreciate you. Paul, if I would have told you that Wan'Dale Robinson had over 100 yards on deep passes, would you believe me? Would you believe me that the Wan'Dale we've seen and we've been waiting to see, hey, why did they draft up? Why did they trade up in the second round for this guy? We are now seeing his explosion, his ability to run as a route runner. This kid has been everything for this offense and for Russell Wilson. I kind of expected that throughout training camp because he and Russ were already on the same page from day one.
Well, it was not running catch either. It was not catch and run. It was not, that's what we think of Wan'Dale, catch and run, right?
Yep.
That was so frustrating last year. He'd catch, get hit. It wasn't, catch and run. This was run, and catch. Wan'Dale has always said, I can run deep routes. I'm not just a slot guy. I'm not just a intermediate. I can run deep routes. And, I wasn't sure about that. I mean, the guy's 5'8", 5'9". You know what I mean? I mean, we just have not seen him catch the ball over his shoulder very much in his Giants career, but he did a few times in Dallas, and that's really good for him. A guy who's on a contract year, that's really good for him. Brian Dable likes him a lot. Um, so, it's good to see that manifest itself a little bit, and it's also good to see him, you know, poor Wan'Dale just took such a pounding
Yeah.
in so many years and just got hit and got hit, that see him run and run the end zone, or run and then, get tackled 40, 50 yards down the field is a very good thing for him. I'm just saying every game is different. Okay. And I don't think this is the real Giants. I really don't. I think you can see it from time to time, but this isn't going to be an aerial circus. So it's great. It's great that they had this, and it's amazing that we looked at an offense that did not score a touchdown in week 1 and then scored 4 of them in week 2. We looked at a Russell Wilson performance in week 1 that we said, boy, that's alarming. I mean, he looked really bad.
Yeah.
He's not looking down the field. That looked really bad. And then the next week, all he's doing is looking down the field and throwing his patented moonshots and showing that he's a great deep ball thrower. But so we don't know, I think it's going to come back to the mean in both, it's not going to be as bad as it was the first game. It's not going to be as good as it was the second game. Every game's different, presents a different challenge. And we don't know what the baseline is for this team, but it has to include running the ball and Russell Wilson play fakes and things like that. It just does.
Such a question mark on what Giants team you feel like is going to show up on Sunday. You're praying that it wasn't week 1 Giants. You would love for it to be the week 2 Giants, but just with cleaning up the penalties and not beating themselves. Just one quick thing on Wan'Dale before we talk about the Giants defense getting after Patrick Mahomes. Malik Neighbors yesterday during his availability kind of gave Wan'Dale some props, talking about how he takes that beating and just continues to get up. That right there brings respect, equity in the locker room, Paul. Like if there's I feel as though he could be a voice. If something's not going right, I feel as though Wan'Dale now has put himself in position, not only because he's making plays, but 2, because he's taken a beating out there and continued to get up and catch after catch. I think that he could get up in some guys' faces, by stand on his tippy toes or whatever, but he can get up in some guys' faces and be like, "Hey man, we got to clean this up. We got to right this ship and all." So it's going to be interesting. I think Darius Slayton has a big game this week because Spags kind of tries to take away Neighbors. They keep an eye on Wan'Dale. I think this should be Darius Slayton's week to have a big game, and he looks so lonely in the locker room, man. It's like when you're not making plays, the media just doesn't come up and talk to you. And Slay was just sitting there yesterday with his arms crossed, talking to some of his teammates, and it's like, I want to go ask you questions, but Wan'Dale's available, So hopefully next Wednesday, we can get in there and talk to Darius Slayton for having a big game on Sunday night. Someone who doesn't need to have a big game Sunday night, and I know it's easier said than done, that's Patrick Mahomes. The Giants defense has to get after Mahomes. Are you buying it, Paul, or do you think he's got some of that magic still left up in him for a primetime matchup?
Well, first of all, Slayton did have a 52-yard catch in Dallas, so
Yep.
he did make a big play. He's just not getting the ball thrown his way a lot, And with Neighbors and Wan'Dale, I can see why in some cases. Look, I mean, I tried to ask a bunch of Giants defensive players, reading the stats about the Chiefs, and what do you think? And they said, look, they got 15. They got 15. They got 15. As long as 15 is there, we're not buying any of that stuff. But look, facts are facts. I mean, this is not, as we said, the most dynamic offense they're going to face. And Brian Burns did say, with Mahomes running, he said, I expect him to run a lot because that's what he's been doing this year. And, Burns said he thinks that some of these quarterbacks are taking advantage of the fact that these guys are running to the sideline, and then instead of running out of bounds or sliding, they're kind of doing a little fake and maybe trying to get a few more yards or tiptoeing the sideline and then kind of baiting the defender into hitting them out of bounds. Yep. And then you get a 15-yard penalty. So the Giants are cognizant of that. I would be wary of but look, blowing up Patrick Mahomes on national TV is not advisable for any defensive player because you're going to get flagged and you're not going to be popular. But You also don't want him making you look like a fool and, you letting up and him tiptoeing for 3 or 4 yards and maybe getting a first down. So there's a balance there. We know in this whole league, hitting quarterbacks is a tremendous balance there because they are throwing flags in favor of protecting the quarterbacks. Look, they're very, very, very short in inside linebacker. You know how it always seems, Brandon? I'm sure your father as a coach knows this. You as a player knows this. You always seem to get hit at one position, right?
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So this year it's inside linebacker. Micah McFadden goes down, right, for a long time. Um, Darius Musow comes in. He started games before he gets a concussion. Okay, so he's not going to be available this week. Chris Board replaces Musow in the game. I think he's got an ankle. Probably won't play. You're down to Swayze Bowman, who was at practice squad elevation. He might actually have to start on Sunday night. Okay, an undrafted guy last year from Southern Mississippi. I'm looking down because I'm trying to, he was on the Chiefs practice squad a couple of years ago. He was in Bears camp. The Giants picked him up to their practice squad. He was elevated to play some special teams. He got a holding penalty right at the start of the game that negated a long return. Not good. And then he had to play defensive snaps. So does Shane Bowen have to kind of protect that spot and maybe use Abdul Carter more? Maybe, I don't think you want a heavy dose of Swayze Bowman in this game. So that's something that to watch that is a potential problem area for the Giants.
Yeah, because when Musow came into the game, replaced McFadden, that Commanders game, what's the first thing they did? Went after him with Zach Ertz. So now you got a Travis Kelce. You can maybe match him up with a Swayze Bozeman. Exactly. You're going to have to defend him. And it's, or it's young man, step up, make a play, next man up mentality. But you do look at the drop off from a Micah McFadden to a guy who you had to bring up from the practice squad. No disrespect to the practice squad or anything there. But, it's Travis Kelce. It's not the Travis Kelce from when he had the reality show. He's kind of on his way out. I feel like this is his last year. You mentioned that drop a little bit earlier in that Eagles game, that costly drop. I feel like if this is the Kelce that you may have to match a Swayze Bozeman up with, this is the Kelce I would feel somewhat comfortable with.
Be careful. Be careful.
I'm trying to.
Travis Kelce. Be careful.
Absolutely.
Look, I talked to Tyler Nubin about him the other day, and I think Tyler Nubin's going to get some run on Kelce as well. I really do.
Okay.
And we've got to talk about Tyler Nubin. He played 106 snaps in Dallas. Okay, 89 on defense and 17 on special teams. I said, when's the last time you played 106 snaps? He said, not in college. In high school, I played offense and defense like all those players did, right? So he never came off the field, but he said he felt okay. But he said Kelce is too savvy to ignore.
Yeah.
He said he runs routes that you don't know what's coming. They're not typical routes because Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have such a synergy that they're the only two people who know what they're doing on the field. And Tyler said that there'll be things where you say, okay, he's going to do this because this is what the route indicates. And then Travis Kelce will do something different. He sits down on this route, but he doesn't, or he cuts one way that you don't expect him to because it's not part of the offensive system. But those two guys don't really need an offensive system. So, it's national TV. Travis Kelce, I would not be surprised if he gets in the end zone. I would not be surprised if he has a few big catches. Look, the Giants didn't do a very good job on Ferguson on that last play, that second to last play in overtime. So, Bobby Okereke, does he get some chance to go against Travis Kelce? I don't know what kind of a matchup that is for the Giants. Until I see it with this defense, then I'll believe it.
All right, Paul, it's time to pass it to Paul. Your final take going into Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. kickoff. 0-3 Giants. 0-2 Giants, 0-2 Chiefs. Man, I'm just putting all types of bad juju in the air today. Final take, Paul. Take us home.
Look, we know about 0-2 and 0-3, and it's a little sad that everyone's talking about the Chiefs and saying, look, if the Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time, I said, since 2014, and if they go to 0-3, okay, Since 2000, there have been 117 teams, and one of them at 0-3 has made the playoffs. 117 teams, one has made the playoffs, the Texans in 2018. So if the Chiefs would lose this game, that stat will be front and center, and people will say, are the Chiefs done? No one is really, that is not a big topic of discussion for the Giants, because 0-3 is like, well, some people thought they'd be 0-3, and a lot of people think they're going to be 0-3 after being 0-2 and having to face the Chiefs. So to me, it's not about 0-3 and the playoffs and what that does for the Giants. It is that they put up a stinker in week 1 in Washington, and they deserve to lose. They put up a fascinating game in week 2 in Dallas. I'm not saying they deserve to win because they didn't do enough to win, but they scored 37 points. That should have been enough to win. So now I think it's anything goes in week 3. Anything goes. I could see them being shut down offensively and us saying that week 2 was an illusion. I could see them putting up some points. I could see the defense playing their best game, and I can see the defense not playing a great game again. So I don't know what this Giants team is yet. We'll find out somewhat on Sunday night. A lot of people don't know what the Chiefs are right now. Are they really in decline? It's an interesting game. I don't think the powers that be and the networks thought there'd be 2 0-2 teams. They figured the Chiefs would have a win, and maybe the Giants would, and the Giants wouldn't. I'll be very interested to see what the crowd is like. You know what I mean? First home game, there's usually a lot of pomp and circumstance. I don't think the fans believe in this team, and I think it will be interesting to see if things struggle early, if they turn on them, if they leave early. There'll be Chiefs fans in the building because there's a lot of Chiefs fans in the building. There'll be Taylor Swift fans in the building. It'll be interesting to see what kind of a feel and vibe we get Sunday night.
Yeah, me as a vibe curator that I am, the MC on the night, I'm excited for it. Last year's home opener, they did so much. Had LT come out, the smoke, the pyro, what do you call it? The things that go boom, 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 boom,
Pyrotechnics,
all that, and then they laid a dud. So this year, I think everyone in my Giants group chats are just going into this game kind of even keel, and they're like, all right, let's see, like you said, which version of the 2025 New York Giants are going to show up to MetLife Stadium. But I tell you this, they win this game, then people are going to be going crazy in the parking lot right after, because Giants really need this game. But we finally got some primetime football back at MetLife Stadium. That's on what do you call it? Football Night in America, 8:30 p.m. kickoff. Thank you guys for watching Blue Rush. Make sure you like, subscribe, retweet where you get all your podcasts, share with your friends. We love new followers, and we like the ones that have been listening since Paul, Tynes, and those guys started way back in the day. For Paul Schwartz, I'm Brandon London. Once again, thanks for watching Blue Rush.